Hello, good evening and welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. This bulletin is live from our studio here at Adisawe Kanda in Accra and also streaming on Facebook and on YouTube. Coming up this evening, Auditor-General recommends the recovery of over 579 million Ghana cedis from former Sports Minister Mustapha Ussif and others as forensic audit uncovers massive irregularities in Africa Games expenditure. Also in the bulletin, the minority is accusing government of attempting to reintroduce E-Levy through a backdoor following a proposed 75 pesewa charge on wallet-to-bank transfers by Fintech. And later, the Attorney General supports Supreme Court's case seeking to allow all party members in good standing to vote in party primaries, and this one cuts across all political parties. We'll interrogate this also in a moment. Remember to be a part of the show. On the streams, you can send us a message on either Facebook or YouTube. We'll be happy to share with the rest of the world. Before that, though, let's bring you the news summaries with Grace Hamwajaman. Hello, Grace.
Hi, Martin. Well, 150 workers on the stalled KJTR Phase 2 Market project in Kumasi have been laid off by construction firm handling the project. Sources close to the company have confirmed the affected staff, made up of engineers, technicians, and laborers, represent nearly 2/3 of the total workforce on the project. Away from that, the Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation and Prevention Bureau, AIB Ghana, has revealed that children playing on a field at the Tema Daycare School near the Oninku School Park misunderstood a microlight pilot's attempt to signal them to clear the area for an emergency landing before the aircraft crashed. And the minority in Parliament has raised concerns over the Bank of Ghana's decision to suspend a proposed 0.75% charge on fees on direct wallet bank transfers, questioning the explanation that the move is intended for further consultation. The levy, which was expected to take effect from 1st June, applied to wallet bank transfers. However, the central bank has since announced a suspension of the policy following public criticism and stakeholder concerns.
Thank you very much, Grace, updating us on what else is happening apart from the big headlines we have for you this evening. We are starting from the Auditor General's report, where we are told that it has recommended that some 579 million Ghana cedis be retrieved or recovered from former Sports Minister. Now, the Auditor General has recommended that former Minister for Youth and Sports, Mustapha Ussif, be held responsible for the recovery of more than 579 million Ghana cedis linked to Ghana's hosting of the 13th African Games. The recommendation follows a forensic audit commissioned by President John Mahama, which uncovered widespread financial irregularities, including alleged cost inflation, unsupported payments, undelivered items, and contract breaches in the organization of the games. Also cited in the recovery recommendations are former Chief Director William Kate and former LOC, that's the local organizing committee chairman, Kweku Ofosu-Asare. The Auditor General says the amounts to be recovered includes 579 million Ghana cedis, over $44 million and more than 629,000 euros. The audit report highlighted irregularities in catering, accommodation, transport, sports equipment procurement, and infrastructure projects linked to the games. Meanwhile, the Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Amin Al-Hassan, was separately cited over a broadcast training contract associated with the games. Let's try and interrogate and get more from that report. Quite a loaded report. So let's see how we can break all of that down for you. Joining us in studio is Wisdom Safo, who is with our research desk here at Media General. Wisdom, thank you for joining us. First of all, what exactly were the findings by the committee that raised this 583 million Ghana cedi, alleged disappearance of the money? Break it down for us.
Right. So, Martin, if you look at the audit report, it shows that this happened across 5 main channels. You have the weak procurement, inflated pricing, fixed sum contracts without proof of actual delivery, poor cash and revenue controls, as well as project delivery failures. If you look at the headline figure, which is 583.1 million Ghana cedis, it stems from all these 5 channels. That's what resulted in that 583.01 financial irregularities. So if you look, let's do some analysis on this, right? Maybe the 583 million is some huge number. Let's break it down across maybe for every Ghanaian. If you demarcate or you divide this number 583 million across the population that we have currently, around 34 million, everybody is going to get like 17 cedis in this packet, right? And it means that if you look at 100 cedis for the game, if you take every 100 cedis that was invested in the game, about 25 cedis was flagged as an irregularity. So that's just a data analysis aspect of it. But beneath that, the bigger procurement concern is that 55 single source contracts worth about 2.71 billion Ghana cedis was allegedly they've gone into those contracts without adequate justification and supporting documents. There are more. On the pricing, the audit identified that about 39.53 million Ghana cedis was overpriced. So in all the contracts, they were skyrocketed. The price was actually skyrocketed than the actual price. So this include about 13.12 million in vehicle contracts, about 10.08 in accommodation, 3.87 in sports equipment and other expenses. So these are some of the key findings. Then there's one important one. You realize that the LOC, which is the local organizing committee, right, made payments of about 27.24 million, which was used to pay Black Stars coaches. And this was what has become something we are all contemplating. This is something for all African games. How did it happen to be used to pay for salaries of Black Stars coaches and all that? So that's some of the key findings from the audit report, Martin.
All right. And there were recommendations captured as well in the report. Can you take us through at least one or two of those recommendations?
Yes. So for the recommendation, they've recommended that the local organizing committee should be held responsible. There should be investigation, and if there are prosecutorial routes that will be taken as well, it should be looked at. But Martin, there are certain things that are in there that you can't overlook. If you look at it, there's a deep system weakness. There's a deeper system of weak oversight throughout all this. So you look at the procurement irregularities, it is widespread, 55 single source contracts. And there's one keynote about all these contracts, about 140 million worth of it went into one man's pocket. One particular man. Let me get his name for you. One, Mr. Osei. Yes, he got about 140 million Ghana cedis worth of this contract, and it was single source. So if there is any recommendation, it is one that is to recover all this money. It is one that is to either there will be sanctions, there will be prosecution and all that. These are all entailed in the audit report.
All right. Thank you very much for that breakdown. Wisdom Safo is with our research desk, combing through the Auditor-General's report, which clearly indicates that some monies had exchanged hands, or at least based on the number of contracts that had been signed, not all were delivered. And for that matter, the former Sports Minister Mustapha Ussif and a number of other individuals need to pay back or at least help the nation recover over 580 million Ghana cedis. Let's go to the phone lines now and speak to the Honorable Dr. Ernest Nogbe, who is the Member of Parliament for Ashaiman and also doubles as the Chair of the Youth and Sports Committee of Parliament. Mr. Nogbe, good evening and thank you for your time.
Good evening to you and good evening to your listeners as well.
There were public sentiments and conversations, little pieces of people talking around, but it looks as though this report has brought a lot more information to bear regarding what happened when we hosted the All Africa Games. As a Member of Parliament and, Chair of the committee, were you surprised about the findings in the report?
Well, thank you very much. Let me be frank with you. I am not surprised at the outcome of the report. My committee sat on this matter some few months ago at Alisa Hotel. We invited the LOC chairman to the committee to brief us on matters that are arising from the the report that was referred to the committee by the Speaker of Parliament. And so we delved into the matter, and upon listening to the LOC chairman, we identified series of malfeasance, series of misappropriation, over invoicing, single source procurement as stated in the auditor's report, over pricing, and a host of it. So the committee decided that we're going to do this auditing, or we are going to do our oversight publicly. We are going to engage in public scrutiny by engaging the media and other stakeholders, including the LOC chairman, the former minister, even the former chairman of the committee, etc. And then, unfortunately, a particular quartet for investigation. So we held on to our investigation at that point in time. And so I am not surprised at what we are seeing now, because it came to the committee's attention when we met the LOC at Alisa Hotel. So it's something that we are all worried about. And thank God the auditor's report has come out with this particular, expose, and this should not go just like that.
And did you get the feeling that we probably, or there was no oversight at all, especially in the build-up to the event, and even throughout the event when concerns were being raised about procurement breaches, etc.? It looked as though all along the time these concerns were being raised, no action was taken to either start reviewing some of the contracts and the irregularities that we were talking about. Do you get that sense as well?
Exactly the point, because when you listen to the LOC chairman and then the committee members, you realize that these things were done by only three individuals. Some three individuals, probably plus their associates, the minister, the LOC chairman, the probably the chief director, etc. These were done within, and so there were no proper scrutiny, oversight, responsibility. So even though as at that time the media were very up in doing by raising certain issues, but it appeared no institution, the various institutions were adamant, and even as at that time, I can say the Committee of Youth and Sports, even in Parliament, were all adamant in looking into the matters that were raised by the media and the public. And so it's unfortunate that single source procurement, over invoicing, etc. Look, they are not into it. Probably if we want to go into the report, you realize that there are a lot into it. Food is also an issue. We identify that at our committee level. So the whole thing was centered around some few people who there were no proper oversight, there were no proper scrutiny, and that is what worries us. If you look at the money involved in this All Africa Games and the misappropriation and then whatever it is, you realize that Ghana has lost an amount of money which we need to recover them.
Yes, and so then that becomes my next question. How do we recover it? It looks like that's the main recommendation, that we need the money back. We clearly have evidence that it's been expended, or at least it was giving out, but we need it back. How do you, as a committee, help in recovering this money?
So I think the report, if I'm not mistaken, might have come to the floor once again, because this is the Auditor-General report, and I'm sure it will come to the floor. The Speaker will definitely refer the report to either the Public Accounts Committee or the Youth and Sports, or jointly, and that is where we'll take it up from there. Because definitely this money must be recovered. Some must be recovered.
Are you?
And others, I'm not. In this case, I don't want to preempt anything, but in this age now, we are all saying plea bargaining. Some of these things, we need not to engage in these activities of plea bargaining. We must take the bull by the horn, and people should suffer for their actions.
Right.
Somebody cannot just get money and go and sit at home, and then you come and say plea bargaining, and the person should refund part of the money, and the person will be walking on the street. No, it doesn't happen like that.
I'm sure many Ghanaians will agree with you on that. Are you confident we can get the money? If even not all, at least a good percentage of it.
Well, for sure, I'm very much confident, because if you look at the gravity of the offense, there's no two ways that people should not be held responsible under this circumstance. So I'm very optimistic that part of this money, if not all, should be recovered. In fact, it can go a long way to help do or build certain infrastructures in this country. If you look at even the what's the name, the Botima Sports Complex, how much did we spend on Botima Sports Complex, and how much is involved in this malfeasance as we speak now? And if you go and see the Botima Sports Complex as we speak now, it's nothing to write home about. No maintenance culture, etc. And people have pocketed an amount of this huge amount of money, leaving the infrastructure there at the mercy of the weather. Somebody must answer certain questions.
Very unfortunate. And finally, before you go, what lessons would you say we can pick from this? Because Ghana wants to position itself as, not just a West African giant in the hosting of sports and events, but on the continent as well, where, for instance, if there's another major event happening, we want to have a good footing in bidding for it. What kinds of lessons can we learn going forward from this report?
I think the various institutions, the various stakeholders must be up and doing and make sure that things are done and done very well. It's a major concern. And so that the engagement will not be left for some 2 or 3 people to do. And all the other stakeholders, including Parliamentary Select Committee, must take very key interest in major activities like that, so that things will be done well, procurement processes, etc. Everything will be done well, so that we may not be losing such an amount of money to certain individuals. It's very much important.
Right. Doc, thank you so much for your time this evening, and hopefully we'll be coming back to you when we make progress regarding this report.
Most grateful, my brother. This is Martin, eh?
Yes, this is Martin.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Dr. Ernest Nogbe is the Member of Parliament for Ashaman, and also happens to be the Chair of the Youth and Sports Committee of the House, and clearly sounds quite unhappy about the fact that those monies in excess of 580 million Ghana cedis have been expended without any clear indication of work done. So the 3 people that have been recommended by the committee to pay or at least help the nation recover these monies are the former Youth and Sports Minister, the Chief Director, William Kate, and then former Local Organizing Committee Chairman, Kweku Ofosu Asare. Let's get further perspective on this. And joining us now also is an anti-graft campaigner who clearly abhors issues of corruption and corruption-related matters. I'm talking about Mr. Edem Senanu. Mr. Senanu, good evening. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, sir.
I'm sure you've also heard about the report and the findings and then also the recommendations. First of all, your initial reactions to these findings by the report.
Well, first of all, to say that the figures are staggering. The impunity is shocking. And I'm a bit concerned about the limited number of persons who have been held accountable, because the number of issues that have been described, there's no way that those 4 or 5 key officials are the ones by themselves who have done all of this. The perpetrators extend much more beyond that. And so there are many more people who ought to be held accountable.
Yes. Would that not be difficult if you throw the net so wide? Maybe, like they say, if you're able to deal with the head, you will make substantial progress as regard trying to deal with every single individual that may be involved.
I think that when we've taken the approach of just picking the figureheads, what has happened is that we've left the midfielders, the ones who facilitate. The facilitators are still within the system. And then they become very adept. We help them to become skillful. They've done this in the past. It is the political appointees who get hauled before the with various, investigative bodies and courts. And so they now become, an existing mafia cartel that continues to do it. There is no way in terms of whether it is procurement, whether it is cashing of checks, that it's the minister or the chief director who does those things. If you trigger a request, it has to be an officer who triggers it. There has to be somebody who endorses it. That endorsement would potentially be either from procurement or legal, saying we've looked at the contract, this contract or this policy covers the specific payment request, and therefore we approve it before it will go to the next level. There's a whole lot of people. And the question is, how in the absence of all the documentation and all these checks and balances were these monies collected? So there clearly is an ecosystem of other persons and individuals who ought to be looked at. Otherwise, you remove the head, and tomorrow, those who facilitated are there to continue facilitation.
Good point to make. Now, are you confident that we'll be able to recover these monies as recommended by the committee?
Well, I cannot say for sure. However, the area of asset recovery and management is one of the things that across the continent, many different countries are developing expertise. My organ at the EU level, we try and facilitate countries that don't have the expertise to look at it. At the moment, Nigeria's EFCC is very strong. Mauritius has the capacity. Kenya has the capacity. So whilst maybe in Ghana we don't have a strong capacity in asset recovery, and it's skill, and that skill also requires a certain policy or legal framework. A policy or legal framework that says that if you chase a person and he doesn't have cash but has assets, this is how you can seize and confiscate. This is what you can do to sell it off. These are the rules. If you sell it off, who can pay for it, etc., etc. You need that kind of legal and policy framework to be able to, as it were, capacitate asset recovery and management, and to that extent, be sure you can get back resources that have been filtered away.
And there is this other component of the whole conversation that maybe we need to avert our minds to, which is that weeks before the event started, throughout the event itself, and now that the report is out, there were concerns being raised by many Ghanaians about the processes and the financial flows. So the large concern then was, is it that we would not have systems in place that should be checking these things before almost every now and then, after it is all done, a report comes out, there's public sentiment, people express anger, then we go back to square one. How is it that we are almost always missing these things while they are happening and unable to stop it in real time, but are almost always reactionary? What do you make of this?
I think that essentially it's a lack of the political will to enforce, because it is not that Ghana doesn't have laws. A lot of the issues that we have found in this report will have to do with procurement breaches and contractual, whether it's inflation of invoices, etc. Because we have a system where you should be able to do a comparison of the price of products within the system. So you have a procurement unit, they have access to data on the prices of athletic shoes or nets or what have it. And so you have a standard market price you can refer to. To finish and tell us that they were buying things at 300, 400% above the standard market rate when the data was available at the time, just tells you that a certain unit did not work, or they turned their eyes away. It came all right and they just endorsed it anyhow. What it means, therefore, is in spite of our laws and policies, when people breach it, the sanctioning of those persons so that then people stick to the law and the policy is not happening. And that's where independent, anti-corruption agencies are important. That's where having a specialized anti-corruption court to make sure that within 6 months of an anti-corruption crime, we can hold the person, sanction the person, and then people in the public space can make a connection between the crime committed, the sanction, and therefore say, I would dare not do this because the risks are so high. We are not doing well with enforcement. It's the weakest part of us as family and friends. We want to be kind with everybody. But the only way to grow a society that is diligent and that is, ethical is that when things go wrong, they are held accountable. The sanction regime is clearly there. It is enforced. And that's why you go abroad and Ghanaians do well. They will not dare go crossing traffic lights or go stealing things elsewhere. At least it will be minimized because enforcement happens. And we need leadership to do that. It takes just one good leader, one who is intentional, one who is really committed to make sure that what has to be done in terms of holding people accountable, sanctioning them in the public space so that it sets the right kind of precedent is being done.
And finally, would you be surprised if we have a recurrence of such an issue probably in the next few years to come? I don't want to say months, but would you be surprised if any such mega corruption allegation and report does come out again? Probably because we didn't sanction those who perpetrated the first one well.
I would not be surprised. I would be very disappointed, though, but I'll not be surprised. Because, as I said, I mean, if the current Auditor-General department and government itself is so minded, then what you do is you do the kind of drill-down analysis to say, look, do we have the laws? Do we have the systems? And once you have checked out those things that exist, and you arrive at the conclusion that it's enforcement and sanctioning, who should do that? How do we empower them? How do we make sure that it's an independent group that is not influenced by others? How do we ensure that they consistently do this? You get the results. In the medium term, in 2 to 4 years, we will see a dramatic change if we have leadership that is bent on ensuring that the fight against corruption is won.
Mr. Senanu, thank you so much, and pleasure talking to you as always.
And thank you also for having me.
And that is Edem Senanu. He's the co-chair for Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Clearly unhappy about the content of the report. Well, fingers crossed, the recommendation is that the amount of over 580 million Ghana cedis should be recovered. There are 3 individuals who have been named as the lead suspects in the expending of that money, and that they are supposed to ensure that the money is recovered. You heard Edem Senanu, who has advised that we broaden the net beyond just these 3 because, like he posited, it is an ecosystem. And I like the way he put it. It is an ecosystem, means there are different people along the value chain that play different roles that culminated into the disappearance or wanton dissipation of this amount of money, 580 million Ghana cedis, as a result of the All Africa Games that Ghana hosted in 2023. We will definitely update you when we get further and better particulars regarding the next line of action being taken after the recommendations put out in this report. You're listening to 3FM 92.7. When we return, we'll take you to Parliament and then also find out what exactly has been happening. There's been a big debate between the minority leader and the majority leader over a 75 peswa CD that we are pesos that we are supposed to be paying when you move money from your wallet into your account, or at least from your phone to your bank account and vice versa. There is an amount you have to pay, 75 pesos. Minority says it is a reintroduction of E-Levy through the backdoor. The majority has totally dismissed that and say the minority is just doing politics. Are they? Stay with us. We'll bring that to you in a moment. You're listening to 3FM 92.7. This is Hot Edition live from our studio here at Adisawe Kanda in Accra. Before we go to Parliament, though, the Attorney General's Department has filed arguments in support of a constitutional case seeking to allow all registered members of political parties to vote in party primaries. Deputy Attorney General Justice Sremsai disclosed this on a post on social media, and according to him, the case before the Supreme Court of Ghana challenges the current delegate system used by political parties to elect parliamentary candidates and national executives, where only selected delegates are allowed to vote. The suit was filed by renowned cardiac surgeon and former Minister Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, politician Dr. Nyahota Maklo, and former Minister Christina Mwaku Nyama. The plaintiffs are asking the court to declare that all registered party members in good standing should be entitled to vote in internal party elections and primaries. The case, described by Dr. Sremsai as the anti-delegate system suit, argues that the current delegate structure concentrates power in the hands of small group of party delegates, making internal elections vulnerable to vote buying, manipulation, and undue influence. According to the Deputy Attorney General, the state supports the plaintiff's position and believes a ruling in their favor could deepen internal party democracy and strengthen Ghana's democratic system. And still on issues regarding the court, the Supreme Court has adjourned indefinitely an application by the Office of the Special Prosecutor seeking to quash the High Court ruling which ordered the OSP to transfer all cases to the Attorney General and further directed the OSP to acquire authorization before prosecuting. On the 15th of April, the High Court, presided over by Justice Eugene Nyante Nyadu, gave the orders to the OSP after an accused person in the rice scandal, Peter Archibald Hyde, challenged the authority of the OSP to prosecute the case. Our court correspondent, Lord Edwasari, has more.
Alhaji Isa Seidu of the National Insurance Commission, James Kekosei, a former director at the Office of the Vice President and Customs Officers, John Aban, and Peter Archibald Hyde, are facing prosecution over allegations of conspiracy to unlawfully seize containers using forged documents in a falsified letter purportedly issued by the Office of the Vice President. In his ruling, Justice Nyadu-Nyante indicated that despite having the mandate to investigate corruption-related offences, the Office of the Special Prosecutor does not have the authority to initiate prosecutions without prior authorization from the Attorney General. Several cases being prosecuted by the OSP, including the SML Company Limited, former NPA boss Mustafa Abdul Hamid, and Charles Bisu, have been affected by the High Court's decision. In court on Tuesday, May 26, Justice Gabriel Scott Pomang, chairing a 5-member panel of justices, disclosed that there was little the courts could do since the OSP's application could not be served to the parties. The Supreme Court then adjourned hearing of the application sine die to wit indefinitely until service to the parties is carried out. Sources within the Office of the Special Prosecutor indicated that the accused persons have been evading service and hence haven't been able to be served with their processes. They add that the application staying execution of the High Court ruling could also not be heard at the High Court because the accused persons did not show up, sending a correspondence to the court for an adjournment. The case at the High Court has been adjourned to June 8. Lord Edwasari, TV3 News, Accra.
Right, and that's a story from Lord Edwasari, our court correspondent. Now, let's go to Parliament, and I'm sure if you've been following discussions, especially from this afternoon, you would by now know that there is a 0.75% fee or 75 peso fee which is supposed to be paid when you move money from your wallet into your bank. That transfer, we are told, is supposed to cost us some 75 pesos. However, the Bank of Ghana issued a directive that should not happen. At least it should be suspended for now for further consultation. But the minority is not having it. The leader of the minority criticized the NDC government over what he described as a backdoor attempt to reintroduce the electronic transfer levy. That many of you know it as E-Levy. According to him, while the Akufo-Addo government followed due parliamentary process in introducing new taxes, the current government is sidestepping Parliament. He argued that despite the NDC's strong opposition to the E-Levy, while in opposition, the party has now reversed its position and is allegedly seeking to use a private entity to impose additional financial burdens on Ghanaians. This comes after the Bank of Ghana directed the Mobile Money Fintech Limited to suspend the implementation of its proposed 0.75% fee on direct wallet to bank transfer pending further consultations. Let's listen to Apenyo Markin when he made these arguments.
When they were in opposition, they criticized the E-Levy. When they were in opposition, when they assumed office, they criticized in 2025. They put in place a mechanism to abolish the E-Levy. Immediately after repealing the E-Levy law, they imposed the Dumiso levy, what they call the Energy Sector Reform Levy, which now took away 1 Ghana cedi per litre of petrol that is bought at the pump. So that was the first mischief. The second surprise, the NDC government, through the backdoor, has reintroduced the E-Levy. These were politicians who criticized charges on mobile money transaction. Their hypocrisy has become legend. I have in my hand a statement that has just been released by Bank of Ghana. They are now purporting to say that they are suspending the levy. Meanwhile, they had earlier put out a public notice that from 1st of June, transactions from bank account to the wallet would attract 0.75% fees on direct wallet to bank transfers. According to them, they are doing this suspension for further consultation. The question is, what is further consultation in this context? Were these not the same people who, when in opposition, claimed that there must be constructive consultation before any policy is introduced and implemented? So what has changed? So whereas in the Akufo-Addo administration, due process was followed, government made the announcement through the budget and came to Parliament for a law for the purposes of this levy. NDC is using the Bank of Ghana and a private sector company to enforce this levy.
And you heard Alexander Apenyo Markin, who further called on the finance minister to urgently appear before Parliament to address the matter, describing the NDC administration as a government of certains that has failed to implement its own policy.
We have a question for the finance minister. He must immediately come to Parliament. 1 job, 3 shifts on Thursday to explain the circumstances leading to the imposition of this 0.75% charges on mobile money transactions. We are not interested in the suspension. We are interested in how come, but for the public outcry, they were going to spring this surprise on the Ghanaian public. We are simply saying NDC is a scam. It's a government of certains. They don't believe in what they say. I repeat, the NDC government does not believe in what it says. It says one thing and does another.
That's the Minority Leader Alexander Apenyo Markin. Let's speak to Christian Yalea, parliamentary correspondent. Christian, thank you for your joining us. So what did the majority side say to these arguments?
It's a government of certains.
Martin, this whole conversation started from the chamber when the minority leader had sought to move a motion to elicit some responses from the finance minister, who was in the chamber. And whenever he had attempted to do that, that was blocked. In fact, the majority leader was very furious. He was of the view that when you look at the conduct of the minority leader, it is becoming many, because whenever he gets on his feet, he chooses to say whatever he wants to say, and in his own terms, verbatim, that kind of quote-unquote lawlessness must be entertained. But in the long run, after that strong rebuttal from the majority leader, who was of the view that that was a mere mischief and propaganda, the Speaker, the First Deputy Speaker, Bernard Ahiafo, who was presiding over proceedings today, ordered or directed that those remarks first by the minority leader, Alexander Markin, and then later the response from the majority leader, Mahama Yariga, both be expunged from parliamentary records as though they were never uttered on the floor. But you would realize that so far as proceedings were already being live streamed across all the digital platforms, people have already cut excerpts of that, conversation on the floor when proceedings were ongoing. But that is the kind of reaction we got from the majority, who are of the view that the minority, as it were, would only seek to engage in a propagandist tool concerning this particular matter. Martin, also because this is an announcement by a mobile money operator or a mobile money fintech company, which is a private entity. If it had been something that, let's say, Telecom Ghana as well as Airtel Tigo had equally announced similar, then you could more or less draw the inference that it is a directive that government, probably through the communications ministry, had given to the MNOs to, discharge. But so far as it is just one of them, then one could not, based on that, to say that it is a government directive which presupposes or inherently would mean that the NDC is subtly using the backdoor to reintroduce the electronic transfer levy. So they have refuted it right on spot from the chamber, but they wouldn't, respond by way of press conference. But the minority leader, whose attempt was blocked on the floor, chose to address the press and then lay bare his concerns on that particular issue.
Right, Christian, thank you for that update from Parliament, and we'll definitely be coming back to you if any new thing comes up. Christian Yali is our parliamentary correspondent, giving us the other side of the conversation, the majority side, because it was a double-sided debate on the floor, and in subsequent bulletins will help you have a better appreciation of how the conversations went in the House. And do let us also know what your thoughts are on this decision by the Bank of Ghana to ask that the implementation of that 0.75% wallet to bank charge be suspended until further notice or after further consultation. Joining us on the line now is a financial analyst, Nelson Kuju Kwagbaji. Mr. Kwagbaji, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Good evening, and thanks for having me once again.
Right, I'm sure you've been following this conversation, and it has to do with what we are likely to pay, at least up until it is implemented, what we were likely to pay if we move money from your wallet into your bank account. But as a financial analyst, does the Bank of Ghana have the authority or the regulatory power to ask, the Fintech company not to undertake or implement this directive?
Yes, thank you once again. Yes, the Bank of Ghana has the mandate, and it is upon that mandate that they have actually issued notice to the company to actually, suspend, the charging of that particular, whatever they intend to do. Now, if you read the Payment System and Services Act 2019, that is Act 897, specifically Section 3, it provided that the Bank of Ghana is mandated to promote, regulate, and supervise the payment, clearing and settlement within the financial ecosystem. And so based on Section 3 of this Act I've just quoted, it means that the Bank of Ghana has the legal mandate to actually suspend that charge coming from the Momo company.
Right, and so what is your expectation? What's likely to happen now that they say they are to suspend it for further deliberation? What is your understanding of that statement from the Bank of Ghana?
All right, my brother, if you recall, one of the conversations that surrounded the E-Levy was the fact that the E-Levy was a nuisance tax to businesses, individuals, and SMEs who do a lot of mobile money transactions. And to that extent, a lot of Ghanaians were calling for the repeal of the E-Levy, at which this current government did. And that has actually shut up mobile money transactions, across all networks. Now, if you are moving money from your wallet to your bank account, there is no value addition. There is no value added. It's as if you are moving money from your left pocket and you are putting it in your right pocket. And so if you are doing that and you want to put a charge on that transfer, what it means is that you are going to decelerate the momentum that we are building in terms of financial inclusion. I mean, there are a lot of people in Ghana who don't have bank accounts. Momo is the only way that, they transact businesses. What it means is that once you are putting that charge on that transfer from wallet to Momo, people will be demotivated from, transacting, in using mobile money. There are companies or SMEs, when they sell, they take their receipt, like they pay them through Momo. So I sell to you, you pay me through Momo. That is my capital, my working capital. Now I am going to transfer my working capital from my Momo to my bank account, and you want to charge me. I think this one is something that the Bank of Ghana has to look at, not even suspend it, but totally take it off. Because what is going to happen is that you are going to erode the capital, the working capital of businesses. As I did indicate, there was no value addition. So when you are putting a charge on my transfer, it means that you are eroding, my working capital, and that will be inimical towards the financial inclusion that we are all talking about.
Right, and I get the point you make there about how this is likely to negate the financial inclusion campaign that we are all, undertaking. But what power does the private company have? I mean, like you indicated, they are providing a service, and as part of that, they want to introduce this charge, for which reason they need to at least consult or open the base for everybody to make an input as regards the charges. When some of these decisions are taken, does that not, I forget the expression, but does that not frustrate the efforts of private individuals or companies like these that want to make some profit?
No, I don't think so. Well, I perfectly agree with you. This is purely a private entity that is having, that is profit oriented. We all agree that they incur operational costs. We all agree that they incur technological costs, and we all agree that they incur infrastructure costs. And so they also need to generate revenue in order to meet these expenses. But you see, when we are operating in a strictly regulated environment, you don't stand up and take arbitrary decisions. I mean, if you have the intention of bringing on board such a charge, you must first of all approach your regulator, have a conversation with your regulator, have a conversation with other stakeholders within your ecosystem, agree on whatever you want to do before you even start the rollout. From all indications, it clearly shows that the company has not done any extensive consultation with the key stakeholders within their, ecosystem, including the regulator. And so when it happens that way, you are operating in a regulated environment and you want to take arbitrary decisions, it may not work, because at the end of the day, one of the key functions of Bank of Ghana regarding this sort of thing is to protect the interest of the consumer. Don't forget that we are only talking about 0.75%, but cumulatively, this may be huge sums of money, because there are some companies that move money from Momo to bank accounts in order to pay salaries, because salaries 1,000, 2,005, you just have to move the money from your Momo to your bank account. So cumulatively, the effect of the charge may be material, and that may impact on the cash flow of the company, and that may also impact on the profitability of the company. And so I don't think that in as much as they have their pricing model, their decision to determine how much they want to sell whatever product they are selling, to the extent that they are operating within a regulated environment, there should have been an extensive discussion with one and two with the regulator before the rollout of this pricing model.
And finally, So what then should the final outcome be? A total cancellation or reduction, or what? A totally different pricing model. How do we balance this?
All right. The message I received from MTN or whichever network is that they are charging the 0.75% in order to continue to serve us better. I mean, that is not any valid basis for charging the 0.75%. And so as at now, we don't really know what actually motivated or what actually propelled them to come out with this pricing policy. If it is the fact that their revenue is not meeting their expenditure, then of course they should come out clearly to say that this is what we are charging. It is not sustainable. We cannot remain in business, and this is what we intend to charge. So in that case, stakeholders will come together and discuss. But for me as a consumer, I will call for total cancellation of that 0.75% because it will go a long way to decelerate the financial inclusion ambition or agenda the government wants to pursue to raise people who are outside the formal banking sector into the mainstream financial system.
Mr. Kwagbaji, thank you so much for your time and thoughts as always.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right, and you heard the thoughts of a financial analyst there. Clearly, one that many of you would agree with, that there should be a reconsideration of how much we are being charged when these transactions take place. Nelson Kujo Kwagbaji is a financial analyst there. This is 3FM 92.7. You're listening to Hot Edition. We are shifting our attention to a report that has now been released. You'll recall a few months ago that there was a mini light aircraft that crashed around Tema. Well, its committee that was set up to investigate has come up with this report, and my colleague George Queening was there. Now, he has put this story together and says that the Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation and Prevention Bureau has confirmed that the microlight aircraft which crashed in Tema, killing both occupants, had a history of overheating, which most likely caused engine failure, resulting in the fatal accident at the Tema TMA Day Care Center. The Bureau further revealed that the altitude at which the aircraft engine failed was too low for the pilot to find and execute a safe landing. George Queening reports. Still listening to 3FM. We'll try and get that report for you, but it makes quite a clear and gives quite some recommendations about how people with private aircraft should be able to handle it. Issues of maintenance was
presenting the findings of the final report on the investigation into the microlight aircraft crash in March this year. Lead investigator Captain Paul Fojo confirmed that the pilot was licensed and qualified to operate the aircraft in line with existing regulations. However, it was revealed that on all three flights conducted from Ho Airport on March 16, the pilot occupied the rear seat while his friend and brother sat in the front pilot seat. He said the arrangement breached the conditions of the aircraft's flight permit, which states that the carriage of cargo or persons other than the crew necessary for the purpose of the flight is prohibited.
The pilot's awareness of the white smoke emanating from the engine after the previous flight, coupled with his knowledge of the history of the engine overheating, should have given him ample warning of the possibility of an engine failure and provided him the opportunity to either delay or cancel the flight in order to consult a qualified technical personnel or maintenance facility. The actions of the pilot in inspecting the coolant level and splashing water on the engine were not the recommended troubleshooting procedures.
There are no records available of any maintenance action on the aircraft between January 14 and the last flight on March 16, during which 15 flights was executed.
Yes, we apologize for the break in that story. Details of it is on our website, 3news.com. And before we wrap up the bulletin, let's take you to the education front, where the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, says pressure is mounting on its national leadership to declare a nationwide strike in solidarity with the affected teachers. More than 200,000 teachers are reportedly demanding immediate action from the General Secretary of NAT, Thomas Tanko Musa, following what many describe as a disturbing attack on educators carrying out their duties. On Monday, teachers in the Takwansuai municipality of the Western region declared industrial action over what they said was the failure of authorities to respond to demands following the alleged assault of 3 teachers by military personnel at Adiawoso MAB Basic School. The action follows a 2-week ultimatum earlier issued by the Ghana National Association of Teachers after the April 30 incident in which 3 teachers and a civilian were allegedly assaulted during a military operation linked to illegal mining activities in the community. So if you want details of that story, you find it on our website, 3news.com. Time now, though, for the latest in the world of sports.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition with me, Oreko Ampofo. We start off with Asamoah Gyan, who's been speaking after Coach Carlos Queiroz named his 28-man squad. He believes that Ghanaians would need to be a lot more patient with the new coach, especially given the lack of adequate preparation that he's had so far.
Now, things seems to not be going in our way, and as an experienced person, when you are home and you feel like your security is not good, you have to fix your security first to make sure people don't enter first before you can think about the other things. So I think we should be more defensively sound in our game before we think about other things. You know, if we don't fix our defense, opponent can penetrate easily, because it looks like now we are conceding in every game.
Yeah.
So if we are able to be more defensive sound, like what the Moroccans did in Qatar, and what we did in 2010, I think it's something that will help. You know, I'm a technical man outside, but I'm not a coach. You know, but that's my advice. We should be more defensive sound, not to concede before we can think about the other things.
How far do you think Ghana will go in the competition?
We are all hoping everything goes right. It will depend on the playing body. I always say I won't be a hypocrite to be a fan, although I'm a fan now, but I've been in the game. You know, everything depends on the playing body. We have to just prepare well, you know, to go and make sure we deliver to Ghanaians to be happy. But when we are there and we don't prepare well and we say we can say anything, we are going to win the cup, everybody can say it. It's very, very easy to say it. You know, so it depends on how we are going to approach the World Cup. We have the tools, honestly. We have the tools. We have young players coming up. You know, the experience is a bit dicey, you know, but me as a Ghanaian now, as somebody who has been in the game, we will do everything possible. We'll give our support, and I'll urge Ghanaians to give their support to the team. You know, we have a new coach whose time limit his time is very, very limited. You know, but we have to just give the coach the hope and support to qualify.
And so that was former Ghana captain Asamoah speaking there. You can get some more updates on the Black Stars as they prepare for the friendly against Wales on June 2 on 3 Sports on social media. The handles are 3 Sports GH. My name is Ori Kwampo, and that's how we wrap up on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7.